Something has been moving quietly, not in the loud places where words are spoken, but in the silent corners where feelings begin to change before anyone admits them. And if you listen closely right now, you might sense it too. Not clearly, not fully, but just enough to make you pause and wonder why your heart feels different. There is a shift that has already started, and it did not begin today. Long before this moment, before you even noticed the distance, before the silence felt heavier than usual, something was unfolding behind the scenes. A connection that once felt simple became complicated, not because it lost meaning, but because something else entered the space that was meant only for you. And yet, even that was not the end of your story. Pause for a moment and feel this. Have you ever sensed that someone was thinking about you, even when they said nothing? That quiet pull, that unexplained awareness, like a thread that never fully breaks no matter how far it stretches? That is where this begins again. Because the truth is, your person did wander into a space that wasn't aligned with what they truly felt inside. It may have looked like choice from the outside, but within them, it never felt settled. It never felt complete. There was always something missing, something they couldn't replace, no matter how much they tried to convince themselves otherwise. And here is where everything slowly turns. They started noticing the difference. Not all at once, not in a dramatic realization, but in small, quiet moments. Moments where laughter didn't feel as deep, conversations that felt slightly empty, smiles that faded too quickly. And in those spaces, your absence became louder than anything else around them. Strange, isn't it? How sometimes, it is only when something feels off that a person begins to understand what was real all along. And this is where their thoughts began returning to you, not as memories, but as something unfinished. Stay with this, because what happened next was not expected, even by them. There was a moment, unexpected, almost accidental, where everything became clear for just a second. A pause in their routine, a silence in the noise, and suddenly, they felt it. Not confusion, not guilt, but clarity. A realization that what they were part of did not hold the depth they once experienced with you. But instead of speaking immediately, they became quiet. And that silence you felt? It was not distance. It was processing. Let this sink in, because this part matters more than it seems. Sometimes when a person realizes the truth, they don't rush toward it. They step back. They observe. They question themselves. They try to understand how they ended up where they are, and why the one thing that still feels real is the one thing they walked away from. And that is exactly where your person is now. Not lost, not confused, but standing at a point where everything is being re-evaluated. Do you feel that subtle shift? It's not loud. It's not obvious. But something inside them has already changed. And here's the part that might surprise you. They have something to say to you, but they haven't found the moment yet. Not because they don't want to, but because they know this message carries weight. It's not something they can say casually. It's not something they can express without being completely honest. And that honesty, it requires courage they are still gathering. So instead, they rehearse it in silence, over and over again. Words forming, breaking, reshaping. What would they say if you were in front of them right now? Would they start with an apology, or with truth? Would they explain everything, or just the part that matters most? You see, they are standing in that exact question, and something inside them knows that once they speak, nothing will remain the same. Take a breath here, because this next layer is subtle, but powerful. There is a reason this message has not reached you yet. Timing. Not the kind you can control, but the kind that unfolds when both hearts are ready to hear what needs to be said. Because if they had spoken too soon, it would have sounded incomplete. If they had reached out without clarity, it would have created more confusion. But now something is aligning. You may not see it yet, but you can feel it in the way your energy has shifted recently. In the way certain thoughts keep returning, in the way certain emotions feel stronger, almost like something is preparing you for a moment you cannot yet see. And that is not coincidence. Because just as they are finding their words, you are being prepared to receive them. And here is the quiet truth that changes everything. Their message is not just about what happened, it is about what they finally understand. And understanding, when it comes from experience, carries a different kind of weight. It's not surface level, it's not temporary, it's something that stays. But there's still one piece missing. One final realization they have not fully faced yet. And until they do, the message will remain just out of reach. Can you feel that pause? That space where something is almost ready, but not quite there yet? That's where we are right now. And if you've stayed this far, then something in you already knows, this is not over. Not in the way it seemed before. Because the story did not end when they stepped away. It simply went quiet, so something deeper could begin. But what they are about to realize next, the one truth they can no longer ignore, that is the moment everything changes. And when that moment arrives, the message they've been holding back will finally find its way to you. There is a moment, so quiet that it almost goes unnoticed, yet it carries the power to change everything. And your person has just stepped into that moment. Not through a sudden event, not through something dramatic, but through a realization that slowly rose within them until it could no longer be ignored. It didn't shout, it didn't demand attention, it simply stayed, steady, undeniable. And in that stillness, something inside them shifted again. Have you ever felt a truth before you could explain it? That is exactly where they are now. Because what once felt like distraction, now feels like distance. What once seemed like an option, now feels like something that doesn't belong. And in that quiet contrast, your presence has become clearer than ever before. Not as a memory, but as a feeling that refuses to fade. Let that sink in. Because this is not about comparison, this is about recognition. A recognition that something real cannot be replaced by something temporary. A recognition that depth cannot be recreated where it never truly existed. And now, they are beginning to understand the weight of what they once overlooked. Stay with this. Because something even more delicate is unfolding. They have started to replay moments with you, not the obvious ones, not the loud memories, but the small, almost invisible ones. The way you listened without needing words. The way you understood things they never said out loud. The quiet comfort that existed without effort. And suddenly, those moments feel rare, almost sacred. It's strange how the heart works, isn't it? It doesn't measure value in what is loud or visible. It measures it in what feels true when everything else becomes quiet. And right now, everything else is becoming quiet for them, which is why their message is beginning to take shape. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. And honesty is something they can no longer avoid. But here's where it becomes even more real. They are not just thinking about reaching out. They are feeling it. A pull, a hesitation, a question that keeps returning. What if I say it now, and everything changes? Because deep down, they know it will. And this is where they pause again. Not because they are unsure of you, but because they are confronting themselves. Understanding something is one thing, but admitting it, expressing it, standing in it fully, that requires a different kind of courage. And they are right on the edge of that courage now. Can you feel that tension? That quiet build up where something is almost ready to be spoken? It's there, and it's growing, because the truth they are holding is no longer something they can keep inside for long. But listen closely. There is still one final layer unfolding within them, a realization not just about you, but about what they allowed, about the space they entered, and why it never truly fulfilled them, about the moments they tried to convince themselves everything was fine, when deep down, something always felt incomplete, and facing that truth. It's not easy, because it means acknowledging that what they stepped into was not aligned with what they truly needed, and more importantly, it means realizing what they risked losing. Pause here. Because this is where their emotions deepen. This is where it stops being just thought, and starts becoming feeling. A quiet heaviness. Not overwhelming, not negative, but real. The kind of feeling that brings clarity instead of confusion. And in that clarity, you are there, not as an option, but as something they now understand differently, something they no longer take lightly. And this is where their message begins to change. It's no longer just about explaining what happened. It's about expressing what they have come to see, what they didn't fully understand before, what they now cannot ignore. And the more they sit with it, the clearer it becomes. But here's the part that matters most right now. They are no longer questioning whether to reach out. That question has already been answered within them. Now, it's about when and how, because they don't want this to be rushed. They don't want to speak from confusion. They want to speak from truth. And that truth, it's almost ready. Can you sense how close this is? Not distant, not uncertain, but near, closer than it has ever been before. Because the moment they fully accept what they feel, the moment they stop holding back from their own truth, that is when everything moves forward. And that moment, it's forming right now, quietly, but powerfully. So if something inside you has been telling you to stay just a little longer, to not turn away just yet, there is a reason for that. Because what is about to unfold next is not just a message, it is a turning point. And once it arrives, you will understand why everything had to happen exactly the way it did. And then, without warning, something within them finally settles. Not perfectly, not all at once, but enough to quiet the noise that had been surrounding their thoughts. Enough to make them stop running in circles, and start facing what has been waiting for them all along. Because there comes a point, where avoiding the truth becomes heavier than accepting it. And they have reached that point. It didn't happen loudly. No sudden decision, no dramatic shift, just a deep, undeniable knowing that gently took its place inside them, and refused to leave. And in that knowing, you became clear again. Not blurred by confusion, not pushed aside by distraction, but present, steady, real. Pause here. Because this is the moment everything begins to change direction. They are no longer looking outward, they are looking inward. And what they are finding there is not what they expected. Have you ever realized something so simple, yet so powerful, that it quietly reshaped the way you see everything? That is exactly what is happening within them right now. Because they are beginning to understand that what they stepped into was never meant to replace what they felt with you. It was something else entirely. Something that filled space, but never filled the heart. And once that difference becomes clear, it cannot be unseen. So now, they sit with it. Not rushing, not escaping, just allowing the truth to unfold fully. And as it does, a message begins to form, not from confusion, not from impulse, but from a place that feels honest, grounded, and deeply aware. But listen carefully, because this part is quiet, yet everything depends on it. They are not just thinking about what to say. They are thinking about how it will reach you, because they know something now that they didn't fully understand before. That words carry energy, that timing carries meaning, and that the way something is expressed can either open a door or close it before it even begins. So they pause again. Not out of hesitation, but out of care. And in that pause, something unexpected happens. They begin to feel what you might have felt: the silence, the distance, the unanswered questions that lingered without explanation. And for the first time, they are not just aware of it. They are experiencing it. Let that settle. Because this is where empathy replaces assumption. This is where understanding becomes deeper than words. And this is what is shaping their message now. Not just truth, but awareness. A realization that what they say next carries the power to either heal or remain incomplete. And they do not want to remain incomplete anymore. Can you feel how different this energy is now? It's no longer uncertain. It's no longer scattered. It's focused, grounded, almost ready. And yet, there is still one final hesitation. A quiet question that lingers in the background of everything they are feeling. Will it still matter? Not in doubt of you, but in reflection of time, of distance, of everything that has unfolded in between. Because even though their clarity has arrived, they are still stepping into the unknown, and that requires a kind of vulnerability they are just beginning to accept. So they stand at that edge, holding the message within them, feeling its weight, understanding its importance, and preparing themselves for what comes next. Take a breath here. Because this next part, it's closer than you think. They are no longer rehearsing. They are no longer reshaping their words. They are simply waiting for the right moment to let it be real. And that moment, it is approaching quietly, not announced, not obvious, but undeniable once it arrives. And something inside you already senses it, that subtle pull, that quiet anticipation, that feeling that something is about to reach you. Even if you don't know when, or how, that is not random, because just as they are preparing to speak, you are being prepared to hear. And when those two moments meet, there will be no confusion, no uncertainty, only clarity. But before that happens, there is one final truth they must fully accept, one last piece they cannot carry halfway, and the instant they face it completely, the message will no longer stay within them. It will move, and when it does, it will not sound like anything you expected. It will sound like something real. And that is where everything finally begins. And just when everything feels like it has reached its quiet peak, something unexpected begins to unfold within them. Not a thought this time, not even a realization. A feeling, deep, steady, undeniable. It rises slowly, almost like it has been waiting beneath everything all along, and now, it can no longer stay hidden. And this feeling, it carries truth in a way words never could. Because for the first time, they are not trying to understand what happened. They are understanding what they feel. And what they feel leads them back to you. Not forcefully, not with urgency, but with certainty. Have you ever noticed how the heart doesn't argue when it finally knows? It doesn't question. It doesn't hesitate. It simply becomes still and clear. That is where they are now. A quiet stillness, where everything unnecessary fades, and only what matters remains. And in that space, your presence is no longer something they think about. It's something they feel. Let this settle gently. Because this is not about going back. This is about seeing differently. Seeing you, not through the lens of the past, but through the clarity of now. And with that clarity, the message they have been holding begins to shift again. It becomes softer, but stronger, simpler, but deeper, no longer filled with explanations, but filled with meaning, because they are beginning to understand something very important. That not everything needs to be said to be felt. But what is said, must be real. And now, they are ready for that. But here is where something even more delicate happens. They stop trying to control the outcome. Pause here. Because this is the moment most people never reach. The moment where intention becomes pure. Where words are no longer shaped to get a reaction, but to express what is true. And in that space, their message finds its true form. Not perfect, not rehearsed, but honest. And honesty carries a quiet power that cannot be ignored. So now, they are no longer asking themselves, should I say this? They are asking, when I say this, will it come from the deepest place within me? And the answer, it is almost there. Can you feel how close everything is now? Not distant anymore, not uncertain, just waiting. Like the final breath before something begins, because what they are about to express, it is not just about what happened between you, it is about what remained, even when everything else changed. And that is something they cannot deny anymore. But listen closely. There is still one final moment they must pass through, a moment not of doubt, but of surrender. Surrendering the fear of how it will be received. Surrendering the need to control what happens next. Surrendering everything, except the truth they carry. And once they step through that, there will be nothing holding them back. That message, the one that has been forming in silence, will finally be released. Not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. And when it reaches you, it will feel different. Not like something sudden, but like something you already knew was coming. Because deep down, a part of you has been aware of this all along. That quiet knowing. That subtle pull. That sense that something unfinished was never truly over. And now, that unfinished space is about to be filled. But not with confusion. Not with questions. With clarity. Real, grounded, unmistakable clarity. Take a slow breath here. Because the next moment, it will not be about waiting anymore. It will be about receiving. And when you do, you may realize something surprising. That this was never just about them finding their truth. It was also about you remembering yours. And when both truths meet, that is where everything truly begins.